how'd you sleep? I'd usually say pretty well, all things considered. But today it's a bit more complicated. I'd been up until 3 a.m. having a dead raccoon rodeo in my kitchen. We've all had that one childhood pet that we were extremely attached to. Mine was my dog Gracie. Once she passed away, I had the desire to send her to the taxidermist to make her live on in the happiest ways possible. Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson, woven with American Stuffers by Daniel Ross. The dead raccoon's name was Rory. I fell in love with him the instant I saw him. Rory had fallen in with a bad crowd and ended up as roadkill, but my friend Jeremy, the taxidermist, saw great potential and very few tire marks on the cadaver and decided that Rory's tiny spirit should live on in the most disturbingly joyous ways possible. Although some people go as far as extreme taxidermy in Arkansas to recreate their pet's illusion of life, I was lucky enough to have Jeremy to restore Rory. Rory, the dead raccoon, stood up on his hind legs, his arms stretched out in glee. He looked like he was the most excited member of your surprise party. Rory's tiny arms reached out as if to say, "Oh my God, you are my favorite person ever. Please let me chew your face off with my love." Whenever I'd accomplished a particularly impossible goal, Rory was always there, eternally offering supportive high fives. Some people, they get all stingy with their high fives, but Rory never leaves me hanging. When my husband Victor was making Skype calls for work, I'd silently crawl up behind him and have Rory slowly and menacingly rise up over Victor's shoulder until the person on the call froze because they noticed a mentally unbalanced raccoon was leaning in like a furry, eavesdropping serial killer. If anything, though, Victor should have thanked me because the perfect test to see if your friends and coworkers really have your back is if they're willing to say, "Dude, watch out for that freaking raccoon!" To their credit, most of Victor's scholars would mention something, and I'd point out that they passed the test, and then Rory would be like, "Jazz hands." And Victor would lock us both out, and I'd stick Rory's paw underneath the office door and say in a small raccoony voice, "Let me help you. I'm trying to help you." When the mailman dropped off packages, I'd open the door a few inches and have Rory peek outside and say in a British voice, "Well, hello! I hope you don't need a signature because I seem to have misplaced my opposable thumbs." Sometimes I'd hide him under my covers. Rory, not the mailman. So that when Victor turned on the bed, there was Rory on his pillow as if to say, "Surprise, there's a dead raccoon in your bed and he wants some snuggling." Last night, I realized that Rory was perfectly suited to ride on my cats. As if they were small furry horses and he was a rodeo star. But apparently, the cats didn't realize how awesome this would be, so they were incredibly uncooperative. I tried to create a photo montage of Rory, the rodeo raccoon, but they were not having it. I perched Rory on their backs and they stand still for a second, but by the time I backed up and got them into focus, they turned around like, "What are you doing? Why is there a raccoon on my back? Why do they even let you be in charge of things here?" And then they just flop over on their sides like a bunch of ingrates who didn't understand art. Rory would gently tumble to the floor, which I suspect sent the cats mixed messages because he was still waving his hands in the air like he just didn't care. As if he were celebrating the cats being rude little buttholes. And I was like, "You're killing me, Smalls." But then he just celebrated the fact that I was frustrated. Honestly, it is impossible to stay mad at that little raccoon. Sometime around 2 a.m., Ferris Mueller finally gave up and stayed upright as he carried an ecstatic Rory on his back, and I was like, "Yes, Ferris Mueller, you are America's next top model." But then Victor opened the bedroom door and yelled, "What is going on out here? It's 2 o'clock in the friggin' morning!" And Ferris panicked at all the unexpected yelling and tore off down the hall, but Rory was still stuck to his back as Ferris streaked through the living room. And then Victor was like, "Holy smokes, what the heck was that?" Because I guess his eyes hadn't adjusted to the light. Or maybe to the sight of an ecstatic raccoon frolicking bareback on the house cap. I considered acting just as shocked as he was, claiming he was probably, just a small chupacabra that had snuck in last night. But instead I lowered my camera and said, "What was what?" I prayed he'd go away just questioning his sanity. And he did. But probably less because I had fooled him and more because he'd married someone who took secret pictures of cats wearing dead raccoons in the wee hours of the morning. Rory was pretty much exactly what being furiously happy was all about.